Well, hello, folks. How are you this day? Let's see here. Looks like it's not as clear as I would like, but anyway, I'm here, and we're just going to sit and wait for folks to show up, and so we can get going here. Uh, let's see, get that in there. Yep, we're going to. We'll just sit and wait and wait and wait. Hello there, Peggy. We're just going to wait just a little bit for folks to join in, and the festivities shall begin. So, hope you're having a great day. Let's see. And thank you, Peggy, for joining in. Hope you stick around. And let's see. Uh, okay. Yes, no, I just knew there's going to be more folks joining in. Well, I'm going to get started in just a minute. And being patient as I wait. Um, really great day in my part of the country, though, today. Go outside and it's perfectly comfortable, low humidity. Oh man, when you get a day like this in the middle of summertime, it's like wow. You want to bottle it and use it on other days. Yeah. Captain Russell. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Not going to be on very long this week, but just want to remind you folks, if you are so inclined, you can tune into my regularly scheduled talk show, which airs Sunday through Friday on talkstreamlive.com, as well as on Spreaker, the Ron Edwards American Experience. And you can actually, you can just go to my website, theronedwards.com, and you can click on the big microphone there and go directly to it. That's a nice in and around there. And so I see Doug is in the house. Hello. Yeah, that camera today is kind of blurry. I cannot tell you why, but At least I'm not green, okay? Uh, but anyway, getting started. A few things concern me going on in our country, continuing. Actually, things continuing from last week and the week before that and the week before that and so on and so on. But we have what I would call the go along to get along gang. And what it is it doesn't matter from which area of life you talk about, whether it's Christian ministers, whether it's just people in general, family members, people are afraid to stand up today. People are um, knuckling under the pressure to get the jab. People are knuckling under the pressure politically and in other areas because, in some instances, I see that people are starting to give up hope and because they want to get along. They think that by going along to get along, that they won't lose their stuff, their liberty. But the problem with that is, my friends, um, yeah, you're right, Peggy, the silent majority, they need to wake up and get loud. We've seen time and time again when the loud minority gets their way. And a lot of because, Jesus said that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. The same holds true for nations. People in this country don't understand that we are legally required. We are legally required in this country to take back our government. It is stated in I believe it's the Bill of Rights, and you can also check in the Federalist Papers. It clearly states that when government no longer does their job on behalf of we the people and for national interests, it is our duty to go in and prevent them from doing their job. And so you saw a little of that on January 6th. The way it happened was kind of dumb and everything, but in fact, a lot of the people that got into the Capitol were not there to stand up for freedom. And the way they act in the media, and it's continuing to be played out, if you saw the hearing this week, and the police officers that testified, they were all handpicked by Nancy Pelosi. All of them. None of the majority of police officers who wanted to speak out about the situation, none of them were allowed. Hello, Jacqueline. Hello, Koala. I believe that's Koala. Yeah. Hello and welcome. But we're talking about the go along to get along gang. Folks are, even in the realm of Christians, they're giving up. We just got word, a good friend who decided, you know what, I'm going to take the jab. And it was kind of heartbreaking, but we understand that everyone has the unalienable right to choose. And so we recognize that God gave us brains and we figure things out for ourselves. And we do things sometimes based upon fear, though. And unfortunately, we, the people, we're not solidified even in what's right and wrong concerning our country. Most of us have not been brought up to snuff on what our rights are and our duty as citizens of this United States, as sovereign citizens. And so because of that, the ignorance that is so pervasive today, because of that, my friends, we are watching our rights being just trampled upon. And I can guarantee you that in private conversations, Democrats and Rhino Republicans are still shocked and amazed at what we allow them to get away with. How long are we going to do this? By the time they come en masse to your door and they're knocking on the door, when they're doing that, it's too late. What we have to do is get together now. And you have these go along to get along ministers. I think they're the most dangerous of all because they are misleading people big time. They are misleading them into a trap. And The word says to be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your request be known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And we also seek his wisdom. If you have peace, God's wisdom, and the strength of knowledge, you can't be beat. You're undefeatable. And so I'm just here today to encourage you guys to spread the good news of that it's in our hands. It really is, if we will take it. We don't have to every week. We're watching the news, right? And we see the other side continuing to make more progress, more and more and more and more. Well, why do they make progress? I said this last week. They continue to be unified. They continue to be unified. Our side, so many Christians, you have the go along to get along gang Christians. Then you have the flyaway doctrine Christians. And then you have the Christians who just don't care because they think it's not their job to care. And you wonder, what Bible are they reading? You wonder, why do they continue to go to those misguiding preachers? And we've had about 2 years of false prophecies, month by month by month by month by month. They got into high gear around the election, real high gear, and it just continued. When the dates that they would say would pass, they would act as if we never heard what they were saying before and continue to press on. One thing I really want to do is to go do some research on the ingredients of the shots, if you haven't already. I love that, Jacqueline. And keep being the way you are and spread that. And thanks, folks that are coming into the broadcast. Thanks for coming in, and welcome to you all. But here's the thing. As I said earlier, knowledge is power. As you learn about more and more people that are accepting the jab, go for yourself and check out the ingredients. Then check out the law. These things are experiments, and there is nothing in these jabs that bodes well for your immune system. Those jabs are not helping you or strengthening your immune system against the corona China virus. They don't even match up to do so. And when I heard, and I mentioned this last time, the individual who talked about, well, if Jesus were walking the earth, he would take the jab or the shot. He called it the shot. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining in. That Jesus would take the shot. When I heard that, I said, oh my God. And I know that this individual is very intelligent, and he's been in the business of preaching for a long time. But what he is depending on is the ignorance of the people. It goes back to what was said a long time ago. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And if you don't understand what's happening around you, it will end up happening to you. You will be the one who gets screwed around by what's happening. You cannot be one of those people that sits around and watches things go by, watch the events of the day go by. Now, am I disappointed about the way things have been going? Yes. Did I want things to be different by now? Of course. But because they have panned out so far the way they've been allowed to go, why, I don't know. That's one question I've been having and still have. It has not been answered. But here's the thing I do know. is that in the midst of the madness, we, the people, have no choice but to buck up and unify. And we should have learned this by observing what has happened to the Black American community in the United States of America. One of the reasons why it has been scattered, and you see what's going on in the Black communities, whether they're in Chicago, St. Louis, Los Angeles, Cleveland, wherever. Blacks hate each other and are killing each other. Every weekend, it just ramps up. And it goes crazy, right? The last thing the leftist whites want to happen is for Black people to become unified around right principles. One of the things about desegregation, in the way desegregation was rolled out, I'm for voluntary integration. So don't think that I'm some mad. What I'm going to tell you, I don't want it to be misinterpreted as saying that I'm some mad cap segregationist, because I'm not. But what I am in favor of is that people, whether it's Black, Italian, Chinese, that you have your own. For instance, in the United States of America, I never thought that I would ever agree with anything that, I hate to even say his name, but Louis Farrakhan. I never thought I would agree with anything that came out of that man's mouth. But a long time ago, he said, and well, a better example, because I really detest Louis Farrakhan, but Malcolm X. They talked about people getting their own, not to be segregationist oriented, but rather to be empowering for yourself. One of the things that even in the movie or entertainment industry, they don't mind paying Blacks millions and millions of dollars to entertain us. But what they do mind is when they turn around, like Kobe Bryant tried to do, and turn around and want to become moguls themselves. Kobe Bryant, they said that one of the reasons why he may not be, he's not with us, is because he, along with the gentleman who played Black Panther in the movie, they were coming together intelligently to start building their own movie studios, massive movie studios, with money that was totally independent of anyone else's, and to start seeding enterprises amongst Blacks to start producing, manufacturing goods for themselves. I mean, it's a shame that Black Americans don't even manufacture hair grease. We don't. Not on a large scale. And you have individuals that they produce shea butter and things like that, but on a massive scale they don't. And every time individuals, like for instance Michael Jackson, they don't like people to be owners. When he bought the Beatles catalog, I knew then that his days would be numbered. I knew it. And every time, rather than individuals coalescing together and building their own economic power base so that they are not dictated to by the powers that be that want you to take a shot. And I'm saying this principle, this applies to everyone, all Americans, that we have to take advantage of what is supposed to be this land of equal opportunity and strengthen ourselves economically. Now, they tried it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's a perfect example. It was called the Black Wall Street. The one thing they did not do is properly arm themselves so that when the Democrats attacked them and destroyed them, because they did not want the Blacks to be economically independent. And the reason why it happened, here's the backstory though. The reason why there was a Black Wall Street was because the whites originally told them They didn't want them integrating. They didn't want to be around those blacks. Now, those blacks were very intelligent. They said, okay, fine. And they took them at their word. And they became very independent. And they had a very high standard of living. And if you've seen the pictures of them, the videos of them, those people were living well. They were dressed well. And the Democrats, whites in that area said, well, wait a minute. We don't like this. Now, mind you, they were not bothering anyone. They were doing exactly what they were told. They went along, but the thing is, they didn't complain. And that is what we need to do in mass. And I'm talking about Americans in general, to make ourselves independent of the control freaks, the type of which want us to take shots, want to continue to dictate what is taught to our children, want us to continue to dictate what we wear, what we do, and things of that nature. America, if you look at her founding principles, it's about the independence of the individual. And we were warned that, first of all, we must remain independent by being moral, a moral people. And when you're a moral people, you will try to do the right things in every area. You're going to try to seek right economic principles. You're going to try to raise your children the right way. You're going to make sure that your children are educated in a very good way. Your quality, the seeking of quality will be on a high level. And you're not going to tolerate and put up with the low standards that are being spewed forth now. Just yesterday or the day before, there was someone, in fact, my wife talked about this on her prayer call. An individual was talking about how they need to introduce porn to little bitty children. Now, if we were a more moral nation, people would not be out talking this way. And this is what I'm talking about. How we, the people, have to be much stronger. We have to be much more moral. We have to get to the point where people would not dare say something like that. They want to go after your children and teach them in the way that they should not go. And there was this video that was out. These two homosexuals are bragging about how they're going to go after your children and convert them. And when they used to talk about conversion, used to be talking about, when you'd hear that, it was being converted to Christ. But now these people, these unnatural sexual practitioners, are running around using that term, and they're talking about going after your children. And the reason why I'm saying we have to coalesce and be willing to push back, I mean, as a unit, don't just let people just go out independently on their own and get crushed. No, we have to start coming together in mass and pushing back. Yes, there are those who they get out there and there are those who go out there, the lone soldiers or whatever, and they have to do what they have to do. But they should be backed up by a huge majority of like-minded folks who will not take this stuff, who will not put up with the abuses that are being spewed forth today. Because they don't want you to live for your own sake. They don't want you to recognize Christ. They don't want you to read your Constitution. They don't want you to read your Bill of Rights, because if you keep focused on good things like that, you are not going to choose their evil way. You're going to push back against, and they will not be able to control you. And that's what I'm talking about. It's about taking back your lives. Because they don't have the right to control you. They don't have the right to dictate what or who is instructing your children, whether it's in a library or a classroom or the pulpit. And stop going to these lying ministers. Stop it. Just stop. You'll save money. And seek those who are telling the truth and support those guys. Because Lying ministers are just as dangerous, if not more so, than the politicians, because a lot of these ministers are in bed with the politicians who are seeking to destroy us, not necessarily physically, but morally and spiritually, and make us. They want to make us satisfied with a lower standard of living. No, when I was born, the United States had the number one standard of living on planet Earth. Yep. And before I was born, Detroit was the wealthiest city in the world. Detroit was the wealthiest city in the world. We had all this stuff in this country. And look, we continue to allow it to be frittered away over bitterness. And here's another thing, too. Talk about hypocrisy. Talk about the truth setting you free. Have you noticed how, on one hand, you'll see all these blacks running around talking about oppression, whether it's LeBron James, whether it's whomever, Stephon Curry, or whatever. These individuals, Alwyn Bag Sharpton, one thing that's like a theme amongst them: oppression. We're oppressed. Well, if being a multimillionaire, in the case of LeBron James, almost a billionaire, Oprah Winfrey talks about being oppressed, I would love to be so oppressed. Wouldn't you? I mean, maybe they're being like the liberals who changed the definition of words. I don't know. Maybe oppressed means something else now, according to liberals. But if I were a billionaire, I would not be running around. And if I were a billionaire with a great influence, especially with young people, I would not be running around talking about oppression. I would be encouraging them to do whatever it is that they're called to do, what they desire to do, so that they too could be successful and not be self-oppressed. When you hear these people, when young people hear individuals like LeBron James talking about oppression, and it's so hard to make it in America, though in front of these young people, they are millionaires and billionaires. What they're doing is convincing these young people not to follow in their successful footsteps and to remain in a position where they're vulnerable to those in government who want to abuse them later in life. And so, parents, you got to do a better job when your children are looking at folks like LeBron James and others. You know, stop it. Stop it. I mean, LeBron James, on one hand, talks about oppression of America, but yet at the same time, he supports China, which is more oppressive than America could ever dream to be. So you gotta see, people have to understand what the definition of true liberty, which is freedom with responsibility. In order to truly be free, first of all, you have to take personal responsibility for your freedom and liberty. Frederick Douglass was smart enough to do that. He was responsible for his own freedom. He freed himself long before Lincoln said, okay, you can go. He was long gone and was wealthy by the time Lincoln freed the slaves. We, the people today, have to free ourselves in like manner. And the way we can do this is in unison, saying no, just say no and not participate. They cannot force 30 million people to do anything. They cannot force 50, 100 million people to do anything. No one can. And they understand this. That is why the left is doing such at breakneck speed, trying to corrupt moral standards to the point where of no return. That's why they so quickly moved into the education system to corrupt the level of education and taking out critical thinking. Anytime somebody comes up and says, well, why don't we put coding and other specific learning processes in school? Why don't you put trades back in school so that people have basic skills so they're not under the threat of hunger. Not everybody wants to go to college. Just about everyone is intelligent enough to go to college if they get a good enough education to qualify. That's easy. But here's the thing, not everybody wants to go through that. And now, today, college education is even more dangerous, spiritually and intellectually, because they are no longer teaching people to succeed in the United States of America. They are corrupting individuals. They're turning them into bitter soldiers of hate and self destruction and national destruction. And so, what we have to do is counter that with the truth. We have to counter it with self discipline. We have to turn the TV off, turn off stuff, and not allow our children to ingest that poison, which is now in just about all the cartoons, children's books. You even have to really look closely at your children's books and see what's in them. When my son was in first grade, and a very colorful book. I was up there at the school, just speaking with one of his teachers. And I happened to pick up one of the books because it was really colorful. It was a really pretty book, and because I like nice artwork. And I opened it, I started reading, and I said, oh my God, Johnny has two daddies, Susie has two mommies. And I'm like, first grade? Of course, I went into, I'm glad I wasn't a stick of dynamite. I would have just blown up. Just would have just blown up that half of the building, just kaboom. And I really went into a tirade about it. And of course, the teacher went into a Hollywood level mode of acting. Oh, yes, I myself am so against this. This is just terrible. Oh, walla, walla, walla. Of course, I didn't believe her. Didn't believe her 1 cent, 1 bit. But this is what we're up against, folks. The National Education Association doesn't like you as a parent. They said that they want to control your children. Their friends in the homosexual community want to control your children. They want to convert your children. Why are they after the children so much? Because they want to change and destroy the republic from within. So I come to you not as a bearer of bad news, but rather a bearer of, I believe, common sense. I believe of encouragement. Because where there's unity, there is strength. Where there is knowledge, there is victory. We can win. That's why I continue to do these things. That's why I continue to do my talk show, my commentary, the whole 9 yards, because I believe we can win. Now, the media, the way it's portrayed, wants you to believe it's over, that you might as well roll up your sleeve and get the shot. Oh, you might as well give in and allow them to have, your children's minds. You might as well continue going to those lying preachers every Sunday and every Wednesday night. But I'm telling you, my friends, we can't do that. We got to stop. We have to say, stop it. Stop that madness. Like I said, they can't force you. But the reason why they get away with forcing people is because people are ignorant. They don't know. Most people, I guarantee you, most people, especially among the ranks of Christians, don't read this. It's called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Real short. I mean, look at that. Just a few pages. But they don't take the time to learn it. I mean, when you learn to drive, what do? You have to learn the rules of the road. You practice, and then you get good at it. Ride a bike. You learn how to do it. Well, why is it that we cannot learn, that we are discouraged from learning how our nation is supposed to run? By the way, the Constitution was inspired by the principles of God. I know for you Christians who are so holier than thou that, we're not supposed to be involved with these things. Well, how foolish is that? Any Christian that tells you that, you really better pray for them. You might even want to question what they really believe in. Because as I said the last time, we are to occupy till he comes. Means, first of all, that we matter. You matter. And God is not about us being wimpus Americanus apologeticus, sitting in a corner like little Jack Horner, eating our curd away. No, we're supposed to be upfront, influencing our society for the good. But first of all, we have to learn it. Just like we should read our Bible, we should read our manual for this country. Read the manual. Teach these things to your children, please. Because if they don't know and they don't know that they don't know, and all they do is learn from what they hear when you're watching the news, even Fox News, and if all they get is bull capital S with a hit, that's all they're going to act like when they become adults and they start voting. You don't want to become old and your children are leftist pig activists who are immoral. And what happens when love of family is killed off because of wrong teaching? What happens when being faithful is no longer encouraged? What happens when we, the people, are no longer taught to be unified against what is wrong? What happens when we're no longer taught to stand up against evil? What happens? Oh, you have what's going on today. So I urge you, my friends, to don't buy into the crap. And also physically, watch what you eat, watch the ingredients. Because in these trying times, your body, you have to be as strong as possible. Do your exercise, do it all. Read your Bible, keep in connection with God, and take care of your body. Because I believe this generation is supposed to be on the earth for a long time. We're supposed to reestablish the right principles in the earth and turn this nation back around, not for our glory, but for the glory of God. You know, he wants to get some stuff done, and America has the wherewithal to do it. But it's up to us. Ultimately, it's up to us. What are we going to do? But we cannot allow ourselves to be in fear. Even Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Okay, if he got that, why in Sam Hill should anyone who calls himself an American citizen, a man or woman of God, have any fear today? If you know your rights, you will have your rights, and you will be able to win this battle. It's yours to win. It is your battle. It is your war to win. Because God, I've never heard of him losing a battle. And I do believe that this nation is to be restored for times such as this. But it will not be restored if we don't first restore ourselves. Because a nation is nothing more than a bunch of people. And the direction that nation takes depends on the direction of what's in our heads. If a bunch of stupid stuff is in your head, you will have a stupid nation that is misled and destroyed. I mean, it's that simple. It's real basic pablum level stuff. But what makes it difficult is that for so many years, these things are not taught, they're not encouraged. And then the ones who want things to be decent, they run around saying, oh my God, things are so bad. When we was young, this, that, and the other wasn't nearly this bad. Well, guess why it keeps getting worse? Because you did not hold the line by passing what is right to the generation coming behind you. Even the founding fathers said, look, if you want to maintain a great nation, maintain a high moral standard, and don't forget to pass down these principles to each generation. Because as Ronald Reagan said, freedom is one generation away from extinction. And here we are. We are in a 50-50 battle. Will our liberties and freedom be extinguished? Or America, will she be reestablished as the land of liberty for all this time? The choice is, we're at the fork in the road. We're at the fork in the road. Even Nasty Pelosi knows that if we, the people, get our act together and come together, she knows, though it seems like she's in the driver's seat now, but she knows that once, if we coalesce together as Americans, there's nothing they can do. If we all decide to say, okay, you don't want us to fly, you don't want us to ride on trains or whatever, we'll sit it out. So, let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Now, I take that to mean that if the authorities that we are under do not reflect the principles of God, then we are not subject unto them. Because we're not supposed to participate in activities that are go against the principles of God anyway. So why would you participate with a government and pray for a government that is going totally against the good principles of God? Why? Again, that is why it is said that we shall occupy till he comes. Just like a house. People complain sometimes, oh Lord, so and so, this is moving into our neighborhood. Well, nobody moved out. No one can move in. If we occupy, the other side cannot rule over us because they're not in control. So, my friends, just be encouraged. Just be encouraged to be strong and don't give in. Don't give in. And I really want to stress to you the importance of fighting for a resurgence of economic activity. It's very important because that's one of the main reasons why and how we, the people, can be very independent. We must maintain a viable economic system in this country. In fact, we've got to improve on the situation that we have now. And we must speak out now and loudly against the Biden administration's plan to dramatically increase taxes. In fact, they want to give us the greatest tax increase in American history. Now, why would you do that unless you are trying to cripple and plunder the American people? Because everyone knows that when you have economic viability, people are happier. When we were in Florida a few weeks ago, man, it was happy land because prosperity was all over the place, all over the place. Because they have a governor down there that is not afraid to stand up and say no to the madness. And the majority of Floridians agree. And they have a good situation going down there. And it can be the same way in your city. You don't have to settle for this. But you have to use discernment in who you vote for. And you have to participate. Run for city council where you live. Run for school board. Run for county offices. Run for become a delegate. Influence the party. It's about influence. It's about getting involved. But if you're just on the sidelines, not giving a rip and just hoping, well, I'm just hoping, I'm just praying. Well, I'm just praying. I just pray, Lord, in the name of Jesus. What? Jesus doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. If you're not involved, then guess what? I don't think he'll be involved that much. Because what is proclaimed here on earth is proclaimed in heaven. And if you want victory, you've got to speak it and you've got to act it out. You can no longer, as I like to say on my show and in my commentaries, PG time is over. It's over. We are in a real war. We are in a war that is just as important and as dramatic as the Second World War. It's just a different focus. It's governments against the people rather than different types of governments against or different nations against one another. It is now governments turning against their people. In Israel, they want to lock them up again and give them a third jab. Why? It's unnecessary. The jab is unnecessary, medically and otherwise. But if you don't know and you don't know that you don't know, you'll bend under the pressure, like many people have. A good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, just let me know, and I have the text still in my phone. Heartbreaking news. A second friend of his took the jab, and guess what? Well, within a week, they assumed atmospheric temperature. Their body went kaput, and they weren't old or anything like that. They were in seemingly good health. They were working, doing the normal stuff, and they decided, well, you know what? I'm going to take the jab. Just like Hank Aaron, next thing you know, within days, dead as a doorknob. Now, why is it? Why do you think that a scamdemic, a so-called virus, where well over 99% of those who catch it overcome it? Why is it that you would think that there would be a need for forced vaccinations, so-called vaccinations, with shots that are not even vaccinations? Why do you think that they're doing that? It's because people don't know, and they don't know that they don't know, or they don't care that they don't know. See, when people are intellectually lazy, they don't stay up on the truth, and the liars get away with scamming them to their own until they've scammed these people into peril. It happened in Venezuela. It happened in Cuba. It happened in Russia under the Bolsheviks. It happened in China when America turned her back on Chiang Kai-shek, who was begging the United States, please help me, please help. Well, guess what? The United States didn't help China then, and Mao Zedong took over, killing, I don't know, 50 million Chinese. And I think that's a low ball estimate. It's more like 80 million. So, I mean, we've had these historic events that have happened over and over and over again. And yet, people continue to just want to be involved in the go along to get along gang. So, I'm encouraging you to get out of the go along to get along gang, and let's choose to be victorious. Let's choose to do what is right for ourselves, for our children, for grandchildren in the future, whatever. Because we have no choice, in my opinion. Because they're going to come after you either way. Doesn't matter if you fight, if you stand up for your rights or you don't. Either way, they're going to come after you and your children. Like I said, when I saw that video, these two freakish guys smiling, acting all giddy, talking about, we're coming after your children. Oh my God. We're going to convert them. Well, they feel free enough to publicly show their faces and say that they're going to do something like that. The reason why they feel so free is because those who are opposed to those kinds of things have been too chicken to be bold and to put a barrier up. Say, no, this is not going to be taught to my children. No, this is not going to be in the public square. Because it shouldn't be. Remember they used to say, there was a time they'd say, well, allow us to do what we want to do as adults in the bedroom. And society said, okay, we can't stop what's going on in your bedroom. But when they decided that they wanted to change society into their unholy image, and it's proven that was the case all along. It's in the history of that is in the Library of Congress. You can study where they started in the early 1980s, and they had a plan for so many years, and they said by so such and such time, this will be, and they've been right on target. So why don't we make a plan, a long-term and a short-term plan, to take back the minds of young people? Why don't we make a plan to impact society in a righteous way so that children can once again grow up as children and be children? So that once again, children can be encouraged to grow up to be great, to grow up and want to invent things, to be good doctors, to be good teachers, to be good politicians, to be good preachers. But if it is to be, it is up to us. God wants us to use the talents that He gave us to get the job done. Don't be that guy like that guy who had the one little talent and he just sat on it on his rusty dusty. And you know what happened to him. So we cannot allow our country to be cast aside on the ash heap of history before it's time. It's not time. We know that there's going to come a point where it is wrap up time and the enemy will have his day. But I don't believe that time is here now. And because I don't believe that time is here now, I encourage you to fight in your own metron, your own capacity, for what is right, so that what needs to be done can be done on behalf of the young people. I mean, we should be encouraging and forcing schools to get trades back in school, for example. We got to be practical so that Black guys that grow up, they have skills along with the chosen profession they may have. So they always have something to fall back on. That's independence. That's a form of independence. And Black people used to be that way. Back in the 50s, 42% of all Black Americans owned a small business. And most of those also had a job. But they were smart enough not to trust the system and wanted to be more economically viable and independent, and so on and so on. But once that integration happened, see the way they brought forth integration in such a manner, they glorified being able to take their money and give it to people who previously didn't even want to take your money. When I learned about that history, even as a child, I would think to myself, why would people want to force somebody to take money from them that they didn't want to take? Rather than doing business amongst yourselves and building up your community so that so that no matter what, you would have a strong economic base. See, with money, there's power. And then you'd have the ability to buy land and build buildings and start constructing things and start, we've got to think bigger. We got to think a lot bigger, my friends. Got to dream big. We got to think big. We got to do big. One of the things that I admire about, like, for example, the Italians, they came over here with nothing. And you go to some major cities like Cleveland, New York, the blah blah doesn't kill New York. They have these areas called Little Italy. And blocks of restaurants, Italian restaurants, some of the best restaurants on earth. And it's because they decided to have their own. It's not because they wanted to segregate from America. Italians came over here to be Americans. And they benefited off of that. But because they maintained their family structure and made sure that they taught their children skills. And that's with every group. That's with every doggone group, my friends. So, what does Mary say here? They can't if God does not let them. Okay. But I don't know exactly what point that is dealing with, but the thing is, God does allow us to make decisions, good and bad. We make the choice. We are the deciders. Do we want God's principles? Do we want to be blessed? Do we want to be strong in a position to be able to say no? Is that what we want? Or do we want to be oppressed victims? That is the question, my friends. And the answer you shall answer. The answer will come forth through your actions from this day forward. Because we can all talk until we turn blue or green. But when it comes down to the rubber meeting the road, it means action. And I think that we ought to start demanding that schools, they put trades back in school. And at the same time, we en masse have to decouple the NEA, the power of the NEA, and push that. We got to get rid of that. And we have to get rid of the Department of Education because it's become the department of indoctrination. They are no longer educating your children. And most of the smiling face teachers that you may run into or whatever, and they come across as really nice people, no, they're not. Don't be fooled by smiling faces. Because they don't like you, they don't like God, they don't like our Constitution, they don't like anything that is good, and and it is reflected in the job they do with your children. If they cared about your children, they would be like the teachers I had. They would want to make sure that your children have a high degree of thinking, high degree of education. They would have critical thinking. They would know the true history of their country. And trust me, American history is not all bad. In my opinion, the majority of it is good. Though there is some bad. But so what? There's some bad in everybody's life. We've all sinned. Everyone. So why should the sins of the United States of America in the past be enough to condemn her for destruction today? Because people are walking around who are programmed to hate this country. Why should they be the ones allowed to dictate the direction of this country? To that I say no way, Jose. They don't have the right to do that. But if we don't know that they don't have the right to do that, they will assume that right and follow through on their destructive mission. What we need to do as a people is to unite on a constructive mission. Rebuild the schools, find true ministers of God, rebuild our cities, rebuild our homes, strengthen our families, respect the fathers and the mothers. All those simple, basic principles, and we will have a much better society. These people that you see in Washington, D.C. were at one time little children who were wrongly taught. And those people, whether it's their parents and teachers who instructed Hillary Clinton to be the way she is, they'll answer to that. And I think that Americans will answer for allowing this country to be destroyed when we have more liberties than any other people in the world. And I understand the when we get into these conversations, sometimes people continue to remind me of the hardship of blacks in America. And it's fine. If you want to hold on to that, that's your business. But I would think the Frederick Douglass approach is the better approach. To say, you know what? Mistakes were made, sins were done, but here's the instruction manual for true liberty. And heaven is the one who will give us the wisdom to overcome these things and to be a productive member of society and an influencer. If you don't like what has happened and you call it bad, then find out what is truly good and fight for that and institute what is good, if that is your true goal. But again, we've got to take back control of the institutions that especially that affect our children. Because what is taught to one generation dictates the direction the nation takes in the next. It's as simple as that. So what are you going to do, folks? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What do you want to do? Do you want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Or do you want more of the same? It's all up to you. I want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I'm willing to do what is necessary and unite with those. I would love to grow a huge movement in this country with God's grace to push back against the bold capital S with a hit and reinstitute true liberty in this country. Remind people of their God-given rights. To encourage people to say no to the jabs and other things as well that are anathema to our inalienable rights. Whether it's as parents, as individuals, they don't have a right. They don't even have the authority to do exactly what they're doing today. But if you don't know this, ladies and gentlemen, what's the diff? What's the diff? As they used to say, I think in the 50s. What's the diff? But it's simple. It may be hard to do, but it's simple. But in my opinion, it is much more hard. It's much more difficult to continue to watch what is going on in our society, the destruction. And it'll be much more difficult what they put us through than what will happen than rather us making it more difficult on them and pushing back. See, because this isn't the first time that the globalists tried to have this much influence in the United States. One of the reasons why, the real reason why they did what they did with Richard Nixon wasn't about Watergate. Watergate was a minuscule little thing. But the real reason is because they never forgave Nixon because he was an anti-communist. And in the midst of all of his mistakes, including opening the door to China, which was, in my opinion, his biggest mistake, he also spoke out against some of the globalist activities and the monetary system. Now, I don't know if he was ever going to try to do anything about it, but they weren't going to take that chance. And when he stupidly got involved with the Watergate situation, which was very small, I mean, Democrats through the years have done much more egregious activities when it comes to elections. And allegedly, I mean, you know what happened in this previous election. So it's not about what's done. It's always in the world, it's about who does it and who gets away with it. So, my friends, I'm going to probably bring this to a close. I just wanted to encourage you guys again. We're going to be back in another week. But please tune in to the Ron Edwards American Experience, where we blow away the myths and reveal the truth. You can simply tune in. Just go to theronedwards.com, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday through Friday. And or on Saturdays, you can tune in on radio stations. Go to KELY 1230 AM.com. And that's a string of radio stations out west. You can check that out, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And also overnights on the Captain America Third Watch. And also, oh yeah, don't forget, I meant to bring a bag here. Check out Constitutional Grounds Coffee. It is delicious. I must say so myself. And the backstory is that great coffee company based in Virginia. They touched base with me. They've heard my commentaries in Virginia where they are located, and they said, "Wow, we like this guy's message." And so we have been talking for months, and they they thought of the idea of bringing forth a unique coffee um, with me in mind, and it's called Constitutional Grounds. My wife named it Constitutional Grounds, but it took months for them to come up with this unique blend, organic. It's great, and you can find out more about that by simply going to theronedwards.com, and you will see the Constitutional Grounds display as well. And when you do order, simply utilize RE20 and you'll get 20% off of your order. And it's not the most inexpensive coffee in the world, but the reason why is the high quality of the beans that they're using. Because I'm just like that. Even if it costs a little more, I'm about top drawer. I'm about because we were talking for months about a coffee that even if it sits around for a while, it doesn't turn acidic. Because you don't want an acidic drink in your body because acidic, when your body's more acidic, other things bad can happen in your body. And if people are drinking acidic coffee every day, like Starbucks, oops, did I say that? Which is highly acidic, bad things happen in the long run. So anyway, check that out. And remember to check out theronedwards.com. And you can also, like I said, tune into the Ron Edwards American Experience. Check all you have to do, 3 p.m. Go to my website and click on that big gray microphone, and it takes you right to it. And you'll enjoy the show. It's a unique broadcast where I blow away the myths and reveal the truth and talk about things. And we get to the bottom line here. We get to the bottom line in the show. It's a little more upbeat, and we have a good time. We have a great producer. His name is Doug Cushing. We call him the Crazy Cajun. Crazy Cajun, great guy. And so he reached out to me many months ago, and he wanted to be my producer. He had heard me, and he said, "Man, I like the way this guy thinks." And so we've been together as a good team. The show's growing, and God is blessing. And so check it out and tell your friends. If you like what we talk about here, give a like and subscribe, and tell your friends, tell your family members, even tell strangers, tell everyone, because it's about the truth, my friends. It's all about the truth, and it's about restoring our great nation for the glory of God and for liberty, truth, liberty, and justice for all. That's what it's about. So until next time, or until Sunday on the Ron Edwards American Experience at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, this is me, Ron Edwards, saying bye now. Take care. There we go.